We love Zencaster because it allows us to record the audio for our podcast and create the video segments we use for our weekly Sister Scoop episodes. Zencaster has helped us make content capture simple.
It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencaster. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests, and feel a sense of zen knowing Zencaster's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable.
If you've thought about podcasting before and realized that you need a lot of different tools and services, those days are over. With Zencaster's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcast in one place and distribute it to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations.
Just go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code SistersAssembled, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencaster paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all of our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.
Katie and I are always hungry, and one snack we both love is beef jerky. That's why we're so excited to tell you about one of our favorite jerky brands, Matt Hat Jerky.
Matt Hat's delicious taste makes it a great snack, and the variety of flavors, including original, black truffle, and my personal favorite, roasted garlic, means there's a flavor for everyone. Plus, it's local to the area where we grew up in, which we just love.
Use the link in the show notes below to get some Matt Hat Jerky for yourself, and make sure to use our coupon code SistersAssembled for 10% off. Hello and welcome to Sisters Assembled, your home for all things MCU. And we have a little bit of a pivot for you all this week. You probably know that we were planning on doing the second episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but it's been a little bit of a crazy week in the fandom. There have been a lot of leaks related to Avengers Doomsday. So we wanted to take this opportunity to kind of expand upon the news and the leaks that we got beyond just what we typically do in Sister Scoop, so that we can actually analyze and theorize and then continue with updates as we move forward now that we're just a year out, which is crazy. So if you are not interested in checking out the leaks or hearing about them, this may not be the episode for you. But if you are interested in the leaks, you should probably check those out sooner rather than later. I know the studios are doing what they can to try to get the information off the internet, or at least the visuals of it off the internet. You can always get a summary, and we're going to do our best to summarize here as well. But if you want to actually check it out, do that. Be careful. You know, not always the most reputable sites are having these on there, but it is definitely worth checking out because I think there's a lot of good information coming out the last week. So thank you to everybody who is sharing the leaks. We appreciate all that you are doing for the fandom. Now, without any further ado, and because there's quite a bit to talk about, analyze, and give our thoughts on, Katie, you're up.
Let's talk about what we do know before we get into anything a little too crazy, because that's where I think this episode's going to take us by the end. We do know there's going to be 4 trailers that is going to drop for Doomsday. The first trailer is supposed to be focused on Steve Rogers. The second one is supposed to be focused on Thor. The third one focused on Doctor Doom himself. And then the final one supposed to be kind of just like that catch-all mega, like this is the trailer kind of vibe, which we get for every movie, right? So that's what we do know. These are the facts that we can confirm. As in, like, we know it. Reputable sources have been sharing it. We've been doing the research. We've been getting the confirmations. You know, these are the things that we can say for sure this is happening. And honestly, the irony about that is that's it.
Yeah.
That is like the only thing that we're going to say in this entire episode that we're like, this is for sure. So we have to kind of pivot already and get kind of into what some of these leaks actually consist of. Because I think even from what I already confirmed with you, some of you might be sitting there going, what do you mean Steve Rogers?
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it's very fitting that that was then the very first leak that we received this week was Steve Rogers' supposed trailer, at least part of Steve Rogers' supposed trailer.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen it in any of the online chatter, we'll give you like a very top line summary. Basically, you see Steve on his motorcycle. He walks up to the house where we know he's living with Peggy from the last time we saw him in Endgame. And then he is taking care of his infant son. And there's a scene of him, putting away the Captain America suit into a box, kind of the symbolism of I'm done, I'm retired, this is my life now, I'm a dad, and that is my, path forward. And so that's kind of what we get. And then it goes to a kind of countdown clock for the film. And it says Steve Rogers will return in Avengers Doomsday. And that's essentially the nuts and bolts of the trailer that we have seen. So that's that. That's Steve Rogers, trailer number 1. We're just also, side note, friends, we're just going to info dump at the beginning of this episode so you have the context. And then all the analysis and the fun stuff, the theorizing, will come later. The next thing that came out then afterwards was the audio only of the Thor trailer. And so this is where things start to get a little interesting. I will read out the audio for you all just so that you can have that if you haven't been able to find it, because that one is a little bit harder to find. The Steve one went wide and it was easier to find. The Thor audio is a little harder to find. You kind of gotta do some digging. But here we go. Of all the crowns, the kingdoms, the pride, I ask for none. Father, hear your son. I am not worthy of life, but still I beg you to let the thread lengthen. Not for thunder, not for war. Let me remain long enough to see my love once more. So, interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. This is where we're going to pivot now from the leaks themselves into the theories. And I'll let Katie start, but there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, and I feel like before we actually go directly into theories, there's a little bit of just like our general thoughts and reactions that need to come out regarding these, because there are a lot of them.
Yeah.
And we were together when the Steve Rogers ones were dropping. We were not together when the Thor audio dropped. But I think we had a actually, the reason we ended up going, we should do an episode about this, is because we were just having a like very candid conversation about our feelings regarding what is going on here.
Yeah.
Because I think from the jump, it's not like any of us really knew what Doomsday was going to be about.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and I think it's been such a question because we're like, well, no, we get the general gist of Secret Wars, and we generally know where that's going to go.
Yeah.
So we're really confused on where the essentially like precursor to it is going to get us there. We're not really understanding of that. Because honestly, quite frankly, you could just cut us into Secret Wars and I'd be like, it might be a little messy, but we get there.
Yeah.
Like, we've had enough random stuff happening in the MCU that's like, okay, the Easter eggs were there.
Yeah.
We're okay. We can make it work. But having a movie in between that is supposed to be the first half, essentially, we've all had like big question marks over our heads. And so I do think getting possibly some of these answers through the leaks have just made me be like, what in God's name are we doing?
Yeah. All right. I'm going to get on a soapbox because I called this last week. If y'all are not following our Sister Scoop episodes, sometimes I drop gems on there. And last week, when we were talking about one of the, Doomsday theories or, pieces of news, I think it was related to Endgame being back in theaters in September and what that could mean narratively from, the idea of Endgame kind of being the prequel to Doomsday and how related those films might be. My number one concern was, are you going to negate the 7 years? At that time, it'll be 8 years. No, I'm sorry. At that time, it'll be 7 years of content that we've gotten. We've gotten umpteen shows and movies, new characters, new storylines, and you're telling me that the events of Endgame directly lead into the events of Doomsday. What was the point then of investing my time and energy in these films and movies? And a lot of them were good. There were some that were a challenge, but a lot of them were extremely enjoyable, and it's not fair to the fans, and it is not fair to all of the creators who worked on these properties to then diminish them in favor of not only that storyline going from Endgame to Doomsday, but also the original 6, because they have leaned so heavily on them because they feel like they cannot be a successful franchise without them. And I know we'll expound more on that second part in a second, But Katie, you are looking at me like you are ready to jump in.
Yeah, because this is the stuff that annoyed me. Because, okay, like base point, I agree with what Taylor just said. And obviously, I completely agree with the whole concept of why have we been doing this for 6, 7, 8? Yeah, because I'm adding the 8 because I'm not making this stupid joke on the podcast. But for these amount of years, and now we're going to sit here and be like, theoretically, you might not even really have needed to care about 50, 60, maybe even 70% of these.
Yeah.
And baseline is I enjoyed covering all of them.
Mhm.
It's our job to cover all of them. I've had a great time doing it. I wouldn't undo that. But I also think it's frustrating because it was one of those things that as they were facing problems over the past few years, it was we're going to walk it back in this way. We're going to walk it back in this way. We're going to do this differently. And then it never happened.
Yeah.
So they've just been fumbling around saying they're going to do things differently. Like the whole, oh, we're going to focus on quality over quantity. That never happened. Like just things that we've been hearing, oh, we're going to fix this, we're going to do this differently. And they didn't change it. So instead of making and learning lessons and making the changes needed from those lessons, they just kept going. And now I just feel like they're sitting here going, oh, I just don't really like anything that I've done for the past few years. So we're just going to pretend it didn't happen. And that's aggravating.
Yeah.
Whether you liked it or not, whether you want to sit here and tell me to my face how much you hated She-Hulk for XYZ stupid reasons or not, and I will disagree because I enjoyed it for the most part, or whatever, I don't care. Ironically, I just, it doesn't matter to me that I guys, it actually has made me speechless. I don't know. I don't know how to even say that. Like, it's just so aggravating. And something that bothers me too is you brought all these actors and actresses into the MCU and they were signed on to do something that for a lot of them probably were anticipating, especially the heroes, anticipating being around for a while. Like Tatiana Maslany, great example. And that's why I said She-Hulk, because we've gotten kind of news that they're really not planning to move forward with that character almost at all. And it's like, what? That's a slap in the face to that actress. And again, the show wasn't even inherently that bad.
Not to mention they gave into the trolls that the show is trolling anyway.
Right.
So it's literally just like the complete antithesis of the actual one of the messages of the show, which is infuriating, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Right. But it's to me, that's its own other thing where it's like these people came on to do this extended universe and what, it didn't perform the way you wanted. And a lot of it also comes down to how the studio itself has been marketing the shows, the movies, the lack thereof.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been so many times we've gotten on and been like, yeah, so this comes out in a month and we're a little worried that we've barely seen a trailer for it.
Yeah.
So just because you've been trying to shoe this one in, this saga in, pretty much since the Jonathan Majors debacle, that's not on us, you know? And so I think what concerns me with these leaks is if this is the direction we're going and we're gonna pretty much be laying it on the big three again, even though RDJ is wearing a different hat, but we're gonna be pretty much putting it on those three. And I'm not even as mad about Chris because like Thor, sorry, I realize they're both Chris's. Thor, because at least he's still in the universe.
Yeah.
But like to sit here and be going right back to the end of Endgame, I don't want, this is crazy, I don't want to see Steve Rogers. I don't care about Steve Rogers anymore.
Yeah. Well, and then you compound the fact that we've talked about the Secret Wars, the post Secret Wars soft reboot, right? So not only then are you going back and negating 7 years worth of work, 7 years worth of emotional investment, character building, but there are going to be characters that don't make it from this current version of the universe into the soft rebooted version that's likely going to include the X-Men.
Right.
So you've actually cut these characters off at the knees because, you know, for one reason or another, you felt that they didn't perform. But we've all invested time in these characters. We're excited about them. So how are you going to justify spending 7 years on something and then not finishing it and actually tying it back to something that you felt was your, you know, your high point? That to me is, as a fan, like so insulting and infuriating. And I just, like, if that is truly what is happening here, which I mean, I just laid out what the leaks were for you. That sounds like what is happening. And I too am speechless. Like the level of frustration I feel and the level of diminishment of my excitement now for this film cannot be overstated because they have gone the one direction I asked them not to go.
I mean, for me at this point, it's like I mean, I said it before, I don't really need Doomsday.
Yeah.
So just kind of throw us into Secret Wars, do a little something at the beginning to kind of just be like, this is what happened, how we got here. And you're like, oh, okay. And make it a 3-hour movie. I
Yeah.
don't care. But like,
Or Secret Wars Part 1, Part 2. Like, that's always what they should have been doing. I don't know
yeah.
why they felt like they needed a different movie in there. Like, it always should have been Part 1, Part 2. Secret Wars also, like, if you guys are not familiar with the comic run, like, there's, like, the main... and I'm talking about the 2015 version. There's, like, the main storyline, but then there's, like, a million different offshoots that are focusing on different characters and different storylines that are tangential to the main storyline that is happening, but there it goes into more depth. I say all that to say there is so much material in the Secret Wars run that you could have done 2 to 3 movies and you didn't need something random like Doomsday in between. That's what it always should have been. And I just guys, I'm angry. I am angry.
I mean, same. I just am frustrated. I mean, when I first kind of heard about it's going to focus on Steve Rogers, I'm not going to lie. Like, I was like, oh, okay. Because, I mean, that kind of came right after the whole focus of we're going to have Endgame back in theaters. There's the rumors that we're going to have a new end credit, like all that stuff. And I was like, okay, this could work. Right.
Mhm.
We aired the concerns we're airing now, though. We were like, but they could be doing something stupid here.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it at first because I hate Steve's ending.
Yeah, right?
Well, and putting aside actually like every other feeling that I directly have about Steve's ending as a character, it never really made sense. And I think we were all trying to figure that out forever. And I know they tried to write it off in Loki and be like, they were meant to do it. But they were like, yeah, but even with the whole like they were meant to do it, how did Steve get away with going back in time? Like that never made sense.
Right.
And so I do think that at first I was like, hey, if you need to retcon a crappy ending that didn't actually make sense, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
I think it's the fact that it's going to be a focus on this character that you wrote out.
Yeah.
You got rid of him. You didn't have to. That's the thing.
He's not Captain America anymore.
Right. And you never had to get rid of him. That's what I just don't understand is if you were just going to try and bring him back later on, like, and I get it's like the, oh, nobody's actually dead thing. And again, that's fine. That is not inherently the problem more than it's just you've moved forward specifically with this character. We have a new Captain America. We have Sam Wilson as Captain America. And I don't really know why we are going to not only be bringing this version of Steve back, but have him be such a big focus on a movie when he hasn't been in the MCU in 7 years. Well, since Endgame came out, now seven, but by the time this is coming out, almost 8 years.
Yeah. To your point, like, the ending of Endgame never made sense because, and we talked about this when we were doing our Endgame replay, like, it set a very shaky foundation for the rules of the multiverse that then other pieces tried to build off of, but then were also contradicting. And so, like, that's how we ended up with the absolute disaster of this multiverse saga from a just how does this work logistical standpoint. But then, to your point, to bring him back when we've got Sam, who, by the way, Sam is great, and Sam has yet to have his own Captain America piece of content that is actually just about him. In the show, he got equal billing with Bucky. We talked about that, already in our replay. In his movie, he had to share the screen with Red Hulk and then actually continue a line from a storyline from a movie that has literally nothing to do with him and was the second film in the MCU that is oft forgotten because of, rights and things like that. And so, like, now you're going to undermine Sam as Cap again by bringing back the original shield holder. Not to mention, what does that do for his psyche? Because he had to get to a place where he was ready to accept the shield. And now he has grown into that mantle. He has become confident as Captain America and how he is going to approach that responsibility. And now you're bringing back the original. I just, like, even from a Captain America specific, like, mantle perspective, this brings up so many issues. And, you can say all you want, this is a different universe based on the Loki logistics and that kind of way of describing how things work in the multiverse, but we don't have any confirmation of that. And so it's just I I can't even articulate how frustrated I am with this. Truly.
Yeah, and I think I want to open this up to something a little bigger. So the whole concept that we're hearing, again, this is like a rumory part of this, is that Doomsday is kind of going to focus on this whole concept of fatherhood.
Yeah.
And now again, these are rumors. This is something I was reading again from reputable sources, but things that that are circulating the internet right now. The whole idea, at least so far that I've seen, is Doom is kind of talking about, or Doom has had his son taken from him. And so because he can't have his son, he's kind of going after the like other fathers, or like kind of those who have relationships with children. I don't know, something of that
Powerful
kind of
children, essentially.
yeah. Yeah. And I think what also this almost adds an extra layer of things I struggle with, because like again, to me actually Thor is not the problem.
Yeah.
I really don't think he is. And I actually think from that perspective of having Thor be a big leader here doesn't shock me. He's one of the only OGs left, and he's a god.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not shocked, regardless of how you feel about Love and Thunder, because Lord knows, trust me, I hated it. But I still love Chris Hemsworth. I love Thor as a character. I think Love and Thunder, they were struggling to figure out what to do with his character. So I'm hoping maybe putting him more as a leader in this role. Because I do think if you think even of the Avengers, Thor was not really looked at as a leader because he would leave. I mean, he had a lot more to worry about than Earth.
Yeah.
And so I think kind of letting him step into that bigger role to command the people around him, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, he was raised to do just that.
Yeah.
I get even more bothered again by Steve, because he's also not inherently a father. They had to write that in to bring him back. If this leak is accurate, they literally had to make him a dad in order to make him an accurate character for them to tell this type of story with. And that also bothers me, because it's like, if you have to do so much work to make this play out the way you need it to, why couldn't we do it anywhere else? And like the other irony of it is, and obviously I know you couldn't have done it this way, but like Tony actually was a dad.
Yeah.
Like I just struggle. Hawkeye, I know we're like there's like a lot of weird stuff happening right now with that, but like he was a dad. So I just like I'm not really understanding why the only way like why we're so tunnel visioned on Captain America. I know the Russo brothers have a soft spot for him. I get it. But like I'm not really understanding the tunnel vision, because if you have to do so much legwork to get him where you need him to be, because again, hasn't been in the MCU for 7 years, I just am not sure why. Why? I guess I'm not sure why, period.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think, I'm not opposed to this whole idea of the powerful child storyline. I actually think it's kind of interesting. It's not at all what I would have thought the film was about. I don't know what I thought the film was about because, as we talked about at the beginning of the episode, there's really not, there wasn't up until this point, a lot of information about it. There wasn't a really good setup for it. So there was a lot of like blue sky, if you will. Did I think that in that blue sky, the actual direction they were going to go was the abduction of, powerful children of Avengers? No. But I do see how that could connect
We
a
also
lot of
did the whole
pieces.
child abduction thing. We did it. That was Love and Thunder. Like,
I
we've
forgot
done this.
a lot about that movie.
Yeah, but now that we're talking, like that was the whole concept of it. Like Gore had abducted all the children.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Dang, I actually forgot most of the premise of that film.
I mean, honestly, I'm not really sure how that came out of me that I remembered it, because
I
I'm
was
kind of impressed.
so shocked that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because I never would have gone there in a million years.
Yeah. I'm kind of shocked too.
Yeah. Anyway, but I do think there is some opportunity to, bring in and bring together some interesting characters here that may not have had, that we would have had to do some different finagling to get them together. Obviously we've seen him already abduct Franklin Richards. That was the end credit of First Steps. Then, we have, to what we were saying, Cap's infant son. We have Love. We do have a young T'Challa, right? So that's another opportunity to bring in kind of those characters from Wakanda and see how they're, going to be a part of this narrative, because they've already been confirmed for the film. So I do think there is some interesting ways that they could do this. I don't know. This whole movie really is a struggle for me, and it starts. I know I'm just gonna say this again for the umpteenth time. It starts with the casting of RDJ as Doctor Doom, and it just kind of cascades from there. And this latest stuff is just kind of a continuation of that original problem of not being able to let go of the OG6 and specifically the big three and leaning too far on them for what they think is going to be success. And in doing so, diminishing every other character who has come along and every other storyline that we've invested in. And you've got some really, really strong ones in there. And that's just disappointing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree. I think this all comes down to we really are probably going to start finding out either by tonight or by tomorrow whether this leak is accurate. I do think, I don't even, what sucks is like, I don't mind Steve being in things, but I thought they'd like have a cool variant.
Yeah.
You know, like I was like, oh, maybe they're going to do Captain Hydra. Like, cool. You know, like something, you know, I'm really struggling and I'm really super worried again about again, dude, guys, I don't even have words about following a character that just hasn't been existing for 7 years that 90% of the current MCU never even interacted with.
And to what we were saying, like I was fine with even 616 Steve coming back if it was a quick we're gonna fix this situation to his ending in Endgame. But the I too am out of words. Like this is just it's a rare day when both of us are speechless, but they have done this. It's the fact that they are focusing on him. That is the root of the problem.
Yeah.
If they were
100%.
just to quickly make a fix, great. But this focus on a character that has not been in the MCU, has not even seen. Okay, guys, here's the level of like disconnect that this Captain America is going to have with the MCU. He does not even have any concept for what happened after the blip.
But that's my
He
point.
very quickly like went to go return the stones. He has no idea any of the conversations about how we get back to a normal life. He has no idea about Tiamat. He has no idea about.
There's 2 Avengers teams and he doesn't even know that. And they're both his besties.
Well, and that was the other thing I wanted to bring up.
Is that how they're going to solve this now? By having Steve come back so that they're just going to be like, oh, well, Sam and Bucky, of course, can't be the leaders now because Steve's returned. So they're just going to bow down to him and everybody's going to hold hands and say, we're all the Avengers.
I mean, that would absolutely suck.
Is that how they're going to solve it?
My point was going to be, that's a whole other storyline we have to approach in this film and resolve. And now we're going to be focusing on characters who are not involved. That's the thing. None of the 3 characters that we are getting these trailers for are even involved in that. So you're saying that a Avengers versus Avengers conflict, which mind you we have seen before, but that's going to be a B-level plot? I'm sorry, what? Guys, as you can tell, the rage is getting more and more every time we bring up a new point because this is just nonsensical. This is like, I don't even know how to describe the aggressive left turn that we have taken in the last week in the absolute wrong direction.
I mean, yeah. Yes. I am really worried about this movie now.
Worried doesn't even cover it.
I know. And I'm not really even sure. I mean, like the original mutants are so confirmed for this movie. Like, I'm just not really sure. I don't understand.
You know what I'm scared of, truly? I'm scared of a Brave New World situation where it's 6 different movies in one. And they had a hand in that. The Russos came back and worked on that film when they were doing the rewrites and the reshoots. And that movie is like 6 different movies.
Yeah.
And that's what this movie is shaping up to be. And that is concerning.
And that's fine if it's a 5-hour movie, but it's not. Like, if you want to sit me down for 5 hours and tell me every single story that you wanted to tell me in Doomsday, I'll watch it.
But then do multiple parts.
Well, no, I don't even want multiple parts. Just
I just can't sit through a 5-hour movie.
Well, give me an intermission. Like, we'll put a pause on the screen.
Multiple parts.
No, because I don't want to have to. No, just one big stupid movie with everything that you ever wanted to include in it. Just do whatever you want. But like, knowing it's going to be probably 2.5 hours at most, I am just like, this is strange. And I know we needed to give Doom a motivation, right? Like, I
Mhm.
understand the fact that we're coming out of left field with this character. We've seen him uno,
Yeah.
like one whole time. That's it. And so I understand we have to kind of do something, but I'm not sure this random motivation of him having a son that was taken from him is also the answer either. If we just talk about the mere theoretical premise, because I say that because it's the rumor of it, of the whole thing, but if we just talk about that as a whole, I just don't even think that makes sense because we don't know this character.
Yeah. That's what I mean. This movie is extremely poorly set up.
Right. And but like it already was going to be.
Yeah.
So now going down into the like we could have done some surface level like Doctor Doom crap and it would have worked.
Yeah.
Would it have been the most like in-depth great thing ever? No, but I would have been able to sit here and say to you, well, they did have to pivot after the whole Kang debacle and so, they did the best they could.
Yeah.
Why are we writing an entire like possible he had a son that was taken and blah 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 and he's mad at everybody for this and now he's gonna take everybody else's children and like this whole thing because again, I've never met this character.
I know.
And I don't really know what his motivation of stealing everybody else's children are. Like Franklin Richards makes sense.
Yes. Yes. That's the only one.
Right. I mean, okay, I could God, I'm out here really sticking up for Thor, but I really could understand Thor a little bit too.
Yeah.
Because love is inherently like a cosmic being.
She's
And
like
so
a
is Franklin
goddess,
Richards.
essentially.
Right. So like I could understand them. Steve Rogers' son might just be a little strong. Like there's really nothing about him to me that's like I think it's a son. But we got like there's nothing to Steve Rogers' child that's like, "Yep, I could understand why you want to steal him." Like I don't
Yeah, he's gonna have a watered down super soldier serum in his veins. That's it.
well, and at most I know that I've seen it online somewhere that somebody kind of said, "Well, the whole concept of it is like he's stealing the son or whatever and it's just because he's stealing all their children and for Steve it's because Steve went back in time and because he messed up the timeline which this part I was like okay wait this is some valid parts to this like I enjoyed this concept idea but the idea is like because Steve went back and messed up the timeline he met whatever he did messed up Doom's life in which case it led to Doom losing his kid.
Okay. That I can see.
Yeah, that I can kind of be like, okay, so then when Steve proceeds to continue to have the life in a timeline he should never have had, which, hello, that would make me feel joyful because I know that doesn't make sense to me. His ending still doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Then that's why he targets Steve. So I'm like, okay, if that's true, I can get a little bit more behind that because it kind of does both the retconning of the endgame ending while also giving him a better motivation
Yeah.
because now I understand the direction, like why he's drawn to Steve and why he goes after him. Otherwise, it's like, why are we just stealing children?
Yeah.
So if that rumor or like that rumored idea is true, I'm like, okay, that at least gives me a little bit more. But I still struggle because I think we don't really know Doom, and I'm struggling because it's going to be hard for me to understand that full motivation when I just don't really know this character. Like it's you know what it is? It's recycling Wanda's story.
Yeah. It is. It is.
Like, is this not MOM?
I mean, yeah. In certain ways it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm frustrated. I do though just want to shout out Straw Hat Goofy for a video that he made. He was very much deep in conspiracy theories on this one, and honestly, I almost hope that this is true because I don't like the direction that this trailer is going. But he has a video and you should definitely check it out. I will try to find it and link it in the show notes of this episode. But he has this video where he's talking about how this leak for Steve Rogers was actually just AI and the studios are in on it and it's a whole, misdirect a la what we got with, Infinity War and some of the trailers not being real and the footage changing and things like that. And he explains it way better than I can. He has examples and real reasons why he, believes that or thinks that that may be a possibility. So, like I said, I will link his video down in the show notes, but I highly recommend you check that out because who knows? That guy's brilliant and he may actually be saving us all from what could be real sadness if these trailers are in fact not true.
Yeah. I mean, In its own way, I think that would be brilliant.
Yeah.
I really do. I think if there's one thing that Marvel used to do really, really well, it was keep us all off of their scent.
Yeah.
And I think we've actually talked about this just throughout like the past couple of years and just how we felt like trailers have really been giving a lot away and just how trailers and even end credits used to be so much more ominous and we didn't really know what a lot of it meant and we'd go into movies and have no clue. Like I even know we talked about it with the Marvels because did our entire predictions episode just for them like 5 days before the movie to decide to tell everybody it was about the multiverse. And we were like,
Yeah.
why would you say that though?
Yeah.
And not even just because we already recorded our episode, but because it's like we didn't know that going into this and it would have been a big like whoa like kind of move
Yeah.
and instead you told us why. So I actually do think, I mean, listen, I'm not really, obviously I know there's a lot of concerns with AI. I understand the use of it and things of that nature. I mean, the fact that with some of these leaks, like I got on with T today and I was like, dude, what are you talking about with this Thor one? Because I can't find it. I
Yeah.
do not know what is real and what isn't right now because there's so many things being tagged as this could have AI, this could have AI. So I get it. There's a lot of concerns with it. I do think it would be very interesting if this was all hearsay and genuinely just the because also them all leaking at once is suspicious to me. I will say
Yeah.
that.
In the same week.
Well, even Spider-Man's being leaked, like
Yeah.
I'm like that's a little crazy that we're leaking 3 different trailers to things all not even within the same week, within like 3 days of each other. Like
Yeah.
that seems a little nuts. So I will say that lends itself a little bit to that. But I mean I would think that's smart. I think what they do with Endgame, like we had all those things that came up that was like no spoil or Infinity War Endgame, mainly Infinity War actually, because Endgame was a different beast. But like it was the no spoilers. We're going like pages would go dark because they were seeing the movie and they were like, we will not be discussing. Like there was so much happening on the internet. I remember going dark where we didn't have the podcast, but like I personally went dark for like 3 days because I was like, I'm not seeing anything once
Yeah.
these like once people start watching this movie. So I mean, I do think and I'm hopeful to what you said. Like I like the concept of doing it so that I don't have to think that this is actually what they're doing and I can look back at this and say this whole episode was me just being annoyed about something that didn't happen and that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'd rather.
Yeah.
But it would be a smart move and I'd really prefer to not know what's going on. I liked not knowing what was going on with Doomsday and I'd like to continue to not really know what's going on with Doomsday.
I want to know what's going on if I like what's going on, but now that I
That's
know
crazy.
potentially what's going on and I don't like it, I'm like, I actually liked my life better when I wasn't living in a bubble of rage about this. But also, from a marketing perspective, I think this would be, to Katie's point, like to use AI in this way would be at least the first time I'm hearing of a major studio doing this kind of tactic. And I would be so curious, how that plays out in terms of conversation about the film, what people are saying afterwards, and how it does or doesn't relate to actually what's going on. I know they got in some trouble when they did the Infinity War trailer and it was a misdirect.
Yeah. But it was worth it. It was so worth it.
Yeah, and that was almost 10 years ago. We're now living in an AI era. We have different tools. People are going to do this on their own. So they're almost like getting ahead of the people who are going to make the fake trailers anyway.
The way I still think about that,
I know.
that last scene in the Infinity War trailer of them
Of
all
them
running.
running.
Because I remember Bucky running in. I was like, oh my God, Bucky's in it. And I was like all excited because I was like, look at my man. And then obviously we all saw how Infinity War actually ended. And you just walk out and you're like, so where was the scene where they were battling all together? Because that didn't happen.
Yeah, that was crazy. But I actually think, like, what a case study for all you kids who are still in college. That'll be the best marketing case study ever. I actually would love to go back to school to be able to write a paper about that because I think that would be fascinating. So we'll see. Time will tell. I also think, the other thing that a lot of people were saying about this, and one of the reasons that I personally think that Straw Hat Goofy may be onto something is there was a lot of conversation about the fact that for trailers, people are going to have to go see Avatar 4 times. We've been very vocal about the fact that, like, no shade to Avatar, but like, that's not our bread and butter. We're not going to go
I
pay
haven't
to
even
go.
seen the second one, so
Same.
I'm not going to go see the third. I don't know
No,
what I don't know what's happening.
let alone go 3, 4 times. Like, I'm not doing that. So there was a lot of conversation about, like, to what Katie was saying earlier, you go into the theater, you capture it for everybody, and it goes up online. They don't want that to happen. They're not at least what I was reading, the plan was not to release some of them online, that they wanted to encourage people to get back to the theaters.
Which is fine, but not for the same movie.
No, I know, right? That was a
Like,
choice.
why don't you do them spread out? I know Disney itself has other movies that are going to come out, so just spread them out. I'm not, even if I was going to do it, I'm not watching Avatar 4 times. I don't even watch Marvel movies 4 times in theaters. I saw Deadpool and Wolverine twice in
Yeah,
theaters.
I'm a 2 Max girl.
Yeah.
So
I didn't even see Wicked 4 times in theaters. I only saw it 3 times in theaters. So you know what? Like, and in today's day of age, no, I cannot afford $30 every single time to go see a trailer at the beginning of the same movie I've watched already.
Yeah. But the reason I bring all this up and the conversation around it is the idea of like, okay, well, this is going to have a whole, like, if it is AI, it's a whole different perspective than when you think about the fact that they weren't going to release these online. So it then discredits some of the stuff that may come out online and all that. And they're getting ahead of all of it. And it would actually be brilliant from that perspective. So I don't know. I mean, time will tell. We are recording this on a Thursday, which means Avatar previews are tonight. For those of you who are in the theaters, please do us all a solid and capture that to the best of your ability. We will appreciate you immensely, but time will tell. And we'll be back on Sister Scoop and maybe future episodes to
I
talk
was
about
going
the
to say,
updates.
we might be back next week undoing this entire episode.
Who knows? Who knows?
Not
It's
us.
going to be,
Not
we're a year
us.
out. It's going to
Look
be
at us.
yeah. It's going to be a long year. It's going to be a long year of random episodes dedicated to Doomsday. So get ready. This is the first of probably many.
Yeah, for sure.
Alrighty, on that note, we will be back hopefully with our regularly scheduled programming. We're going to be back soon with our end of the year episode because, crazily enough, we are coming to the end of the year. Make sure that you are following on your podcast platform of choice so that you can stick with us as we finish out the year, keep talking about this Doomsday stuff that has gotten wilder and wilder as time goes on. You can also check out our website and our Buy Me a Coffee, both of which are linked in the show notes, as well as the Straw Hat Goofy video that I referenced in this episode is also linked below.
You can also give us a follow on all of our socials, which are linked in the show notes down below as well. And next week, we will be doing our year in review / 2026 preview, which is crazy that we're doing that already, but we are almost at the end of 2025, believe it or not. So make sure you guys are joining us for that. We're hoping that will be the only piece of content we have to worry about putting out, but who knows what's going to happen with this Doomsday stuff. So just keep an eye out on it. We're going to be sharing a whole lot of stuff if things do confirm or deny the things we've talked about today. So just keep an eye out on our socials. We'll keep you guys up to date as well, much as we could. And until next time, Marvel just blew your mind. So let's talk about it.